Hello, it's Phillip Taylor speaking. I'm looking at a new publication from LexisNexis which more people, members of council in particular, are familiar with. It's called the Bar Handbook. This is it here, 2009 to 10. It's written by Nicholas Bacon and Simon Garrard, and as I say, published by the publishers LexisNexis, and in connection, of course, with the General Council of the Bar and the Bar Standards Board, hence the logo up there. The book is very heavy. There's a very useful introduction by the current Bar Chairman, Desmond. It's 1,500 pages. It's got some little side tabs, which are quite useful because they deal with all the annexes. The structure of the book, in my view, is quite useful because as a practitioner of nearly 20 years standing now, the information contained here is basically similar to the sort of stuff we used to have in chambers years ago, which were linked to things like circulars, bar news and all the other things. They're all sort of rolled into one, and there's a very detailed set of information at the back about the book. As I say, it's heavy. It's one that all sets of chambers should have, and this is the review that I've written with my wife, Elizabeth Taylor. We're both from Richmond Green Chambers. Now, we've given it a title which is taken from Desmond Brown's quote in the press publicity to go with this. He says it will surely become a standard work, as indispensable as an up-to-date white book. Now, he's right in many ways. Remember that there are other publications on the market, like, for instance, the Solicitor's Handbook, which is also a relatively new publication. All of this, of course, is very important because of the massive regulation of the legal profession. Some would say over-regulation. It's there, we have to deal with it, and this sort of information contained in this heavyweight tome is extremely useful, and I thank LexisNexis very much for it. What we've said is the following. It seems startling, doesn't it, that the Bar Handbook 2008, the previous one to this, was actually the first edition of this now definitive volume, which has become so indispensable to the practitioner that it almost seems to have been around forever. I mean, in other words, we probably think we've just taken it for granted, but we haven't actually had this sort of thing before. In fact, it was originally compiled and published in response to the increasingly urgent need for better regulation of the profession in the public interest, especially following the establishment of the new Bar Standards Board, which has got the little logo up there, in 2006, and the Legal Services Act 2007. Clearly some people think that this regulation has gone completely bonkers, but the fact of the matter is it's there. As I've said before, we have to deal with it, and this is really the sort of detail that you need to assist you in the travails of dealing with all the difficulties that we now face in this heavily regulated profession of ours. So, as succinctly expressed in the Handbook's Introduction, the new 2009 to 10 edition, quote, builds on the success of the original work, bringing together all the current guidance produced by the Bar Council in a single convenient work of reference, and that is actually something we all need. At this point, of course, the comment is made that the handbook won't provide all the answers to every question about practice at the bar in the 21st century, but where specific issues are unclear, it functions, in our view, admirably as an accessible and convenient signpost to other sources of reference. Now, it's useful for me to use it as a practicing barrister, and for my wife, who assists me in the running of the practice, so that we've got some idea of where we are, because at the moment I, as a barrister, take the flak for everything, but my clerks seem to get away with just about anything. And again, there's an element for looking at regulation further. I think your clerks will find this extremely useful as a book too. Anyway, whatever stage you've reached at within your career at the bar, whether you're a very new white-wig junior or a bit older like me, or much more experienced, the handbook is structured to cover all the career stages of a barrister and other practical information in relation to every element of practice, from qualifying as a barrister and entering practice, for instance, which is in part 2, to Taxation and Retirement Benefits, Part 8, and Part 9, Becoming a Queen's Counsel. So details and guidance relating to the profession of a barrister are therefore contained to include parameters of work as well, permitted charging arrangements, getting paid, getting redress when not paid, tax, VAT liabilities, insurance, practice planning, and advice on good practice with relevant statutory and regulatory obligations for all barristers. Remember, we have had in the past publications from the Bar Council which were sort of practice manuals, if you like. So this has got that plus a great deal more. So it's a handy handbook indeed, which also incorporates in full the Code of Conduct for the Bar Council of England and Wales and other material originating from the approved regulator, because as I said, everything is now regulated and obviously under statute. As the publishers LexisNexis describe it, the Bar Handbook is, quote, a single volume compendium of all current guidance material produced by the Bar Council and Bar Standards Board, providing a single point of reference not available before. That, of course, is probably the USP on it. Small wonder, therefore, there's now a demand for an annually updated edition, and I would think that this and its colleague, the Solicitor's Handbook, will be regulars until such time as we see where the profession goes from here. So let me conclude in our review, which both Elizabeth and I have thought about, because obviously this is a book that was new to us as people who've been involved in the profession for nearly 20 years. The expression must have may become a little overused of late, but in the current climate of continued change, especially with this type of book, it is a must-have requirement for any set of chambers in our view. The Bar Handbook has become a must for barristers, therefore, whether self-employed, in chambers or at the employed bar, and clerks, practice managers, and I think students as well as solicitors and those hoping to enter practice at the bar, or perhaps those who are interested generally in the workings of what we do, will certainly find the Bar Handbook indispensable. And as Desmond Brown has said, he's absolutely right about it, it is indispensable, and thank you all for producing it. I think it's a great step forward for everybody. Thank you, bye bye.